On June 25, 2025, the WNBA universe froze when DeWanna Bonner, six-time All-Star, championship veteran, and mentor to rookie sensation Caitlin Clark, handed in her resignation and disappeared from the Indiana Fever's roster.
With the biggest story of the day, and that is the news that DeWanna Bonner is no longer with the Indiana Fever. It was reported last night that DeWanna Bonner had no intentions on returning to the Indiana Fever, and then the news broke today that the Indiana Fever had
In an instant, the player once championed as a stabilizing force became the most reviled figure in the league. No soft goodbyes, no farewell speeches. Just a clipped corporate notice that the fit did not work out and a stunned fan base left to ask, how could this happen? But the true story, as we'll see, only started when Bonner walked away. The official statement was clinical. The fit did not work out, but behind those 6 words lay a weekend of escalating tension. Bonner missed 5 consecutive practices and games citing personal reasons, fueling speculation that her issues went deeper than a simple role dispute.
She said, "I want to sincerely thank the Indiana Fever for the opportunity to be part of the Fever franchise. Despite our shared goals and excitement heading into the season, I felt the fit did not work out, and I appreciate the organization's willingness to grant my request to move on, particularly at this point in my career. I wish the Fever great success as they continue to build around this dynamic group."
According to team sources, meetings with the coaching staff devolved into heated debates over shot selection and defensive assignments, with Bonner openly challenging play calls on the court. Teammates observed her withdrawing during film sessions, arms crossed and gaze fixed away from the group, a stark contrast to the engaged mentor they'd seen in training camp. Rumors circulated that she refused to participate in late-night strategy sessions designed to integrate Caitlin Clark into the Fever's offense. Club insiders now admit the sanitized press release was a thin veneer, an attempt to paper over a rift that had already fractured locker room unity.
Look, I understand that's where she wants to go. Why didn't she go there in the summer? We know why, because she couldn't have got her max contract. And by the way, people are like, oh, they can give her the minimum. No, they can't. The Phoenix Mercury can give her a prorated $80,000 salary for the rest of the year. So she's only going to lose about 30K-ish. And she's going to lose about 40, 50K. Whereas they would have been only able to sign her earlier on. Well, they would only be able to sign her for nothing.
In just a few days, a veteran known for steady leadership morphed into a disruptive force, leaving the young roster adrift. Once Indiana officially waived Bonner, league rules kicked in. A 48-hour waiver period during which any of the 11 other WNBA teams could claim her remaining $200,000 guaranteed salary. In most cases, a proven scorer of her caliber, with all-star nods in 2022 and 2024, and a reputation for clutch shooting, would be snapped up immediately. Instead, the clock ticked down to 0 with utter stillness. No front offices logged urgent calls to Indiana's GM. No teams quietly inquired about her practice habits or locker room impact. Even contenders fighting for a deep playoff run passed, unwilling to assume what suddenly looked like a volatile presence. By the time waivers closed, Bonner's phone remained silent, an eerie testament to how thoroughly the league had balked at her mid-season departure.
Bonner knew damn well she didn't want to come to Indiana. She knew she didn't want to be there. She knew she didn't want to be there. I think the fix was in. The Phoenix Mercury didn't have the bread to pay her. She said, I'm going to get the bag elsewhere, and then I'm going to force my way out to where within the first half of the season before All-Star, Alyssa Thomas, I'm gonna be on your team. I think the fix has been in. I think the Phoenix Mercury knew this was gonna happen.
In professional sports, free talent rarely goes unclaimed. The fact that Bonner did suggests an undercurrent of concern far beyond mere basketball fit. Whispers around the league suggest Bonner enacted a behind-the-scenes strategy. She allegedly reached out to multiple general managers, requesting they refrain from placing waiver claims. According to unnamed executives, she positioned it as a favor, insisting she had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity waiting in Phoenix and didn't want to be claimed elsewhere. Text messages and discreet phone calls reportedly warned teams that any claim would sour potential negotiations with her preferred destination. It was less about the money and more about guaranteeing control, one front office source confided, stressing that these conversations were never meant for public ears. Another executive, who asked to remain anonymous, noted that teams were uneasy even discussing her situation internally once they suspected such a campaign. While no hard evidence has surfaced, no leaked messages or recorded calls, the uniformity of refusal hints at more than simple basketball fit. If these rumors hold, Bonner would have weaponized the waiver system itself, turning what's supposed to be a straightforward process into a power play. It's a tactic more reminiscent of high-stakes NBA free agency maneuvers than standard WNBA roster moves, yet, for now, it remains unverified chatter behind closed doors. The cost of Bonner's gambit was staggering. By clearing waivers unclaimed, she automatically relinquished the remaining $200,000 guaranteed on her Indiana contract. That sum represented more than some rookies make in their entire first year, yet she walked away without so much as a negotiation. When the Phoenix Mercury finally extended an offer, it was for a veteran minimum, prorated at roughly $80,000 for the rest of the season. In effect, Bonner sacrificed over $120,000 in guaranteed income. Putting it in context, had even one contender submitted a waiver claim, they would have absorbed her full salary, and potential title-chasing teams were openly seeking veteran shooters. Instead, Bonner's decision turned what could have been a cost-neutral roster upgrade into a massive personal loss. Sources close to the negotiations say Bonner's camp initially held out for a six-figure guarantee from Phoenix, only to settle weeks later for the league minimum once the waiver period closed. Beyond the raw dollar amount, the fallout cut deeper. Front offices and agents alike questioned her judgment. Why would a seasoned pro forfeit that level of security on a hunch that Phoenix would come calling? Some executives privately mused that this level of financial risk-taking bordered less on strategy and more on desperation. Fans, too, reacted with disbelief on social media. Numerous posts calculated how many community outreach events or WNBA-themed youth camps could have been funded with the forfeited six-figure sum. On paper, Phoenix looked like the perfect landing spot. The Mercury had cleared roughly $150,000 in cap space by waiving a veteran guard and converting a hardship exception into a full roster spot. Their young nucleus, led by dynamic guards and a breakout forward, had gelled into a surprising 12-8 start. Yet when Bonner's name surfaced, executives froze. Internal memos reportedly flagged her mid-season exit in Indiana as a red flag. If she could walk away from a role she initially signed up for, what guarantee existed she wouldn't do the same in Phoenix? Coaching staff voiced similar concerns. In closed-door meetings, sources say head coach Vanessa Nygaard questioned whether adding a high-usage veteran would disrupt established rotations and pull minutes from developing players who had bought into a collective system. One assistant coach argued the move was high-risk marginal reward, noting that Bonner's fit alongside their up-tempo style was untested. Even the front office's financial team had reservations. Analysts pointed out that dipping into veteran minimum money for a player with recent absences could complicate future cap planning, especially if Bonner required a buyout or suffered injury. They feared a scenario where Phoenix would be on the hook for settlement costs without on-court returns. These debates stretched through the entire 48-hour waiver window, delaying any formal offer until the deadline loomed. By the time Phoenix officially extended a prorated minimum contract, the drawn-out process had become a public spectacle, fuel for social media critics and further evidence in many eyes that Bonner's mid-season maneuvering had backfired. What should have been a swift transition turned into a cautionary tale of how fragile even the most promising redemption arc can become when questions of trust and stability overshadow talent. Professional sports thrive on camaraderie. When a teammate faces adversity or clashes with a franchise, veterans often line up publicly in support. They post encouraging messages, grant sympathetic interviews, and remind fans that one player's struggle is the entire locker room's battle. Not so with Bonner. After her exit, the WNBA's tight-knit community fell eerily silent. There were no tweets from former teammates praising her leadership, no Instagram stories wishing her well, not even a quiet comment in a locker room vlog. High-profile names like Breanna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, and Asia Wilson all scrolled past the news without so much as a reaction emoji. Even Caitlin Clark's closest veteran confidants, players who had previously spoken about mentorship duties, remained mute. That deafening quiet wasn't neutrality, it was a collective judgment. Inside sources say the players' union quietly monitored the fallout, concerned that others might follow Bonner's example. But union reps also recognized the importance of discipline. Publicly defending a player perceived to have abandoned her team risked undermining contractual standards. So instead of rallying around Bonner, the community sent a subtle but unmistakable message. This was no admirable act of empowerment, but rather a breach of trust. At the heart of controversy sits Caitlin Clark. the rookie phenom whose meteoric rise has electrified arenas and shattered attendance records. Clark signed on partly because Bonner's veteran presence promised guidance through the rookie gauntlet. Instead, Clark faced the crucible alone. Imagine a young star under unrelenting media glare, expecting a mentor at her side, only to see that mentor walk away without a word. Clark's first true test wasn't on the court. It was learning to navigate headlines, locker room dynamics, and fan expectations solo. For a player already carrying historic pressure, it was a stark lesson. Professional sports can be a lonely business. Bonner's midseason exit raises a chilling question. If veterans can abandon contracts and strong-arm their next landing spot, what stops others from doing the same? Contracts risk devolving into flexible guidelines rather than binding agreements. For smaller franchises, teams without deep pockets or marquee markets, this could be devastating. Imagine building a competitive roster, only to have a veteran bolt when a better opportunity emerges. Suddenly, stability and trust become premium commodities. League executives warn that if such behavior goes unchecked, it could trigger a domino effect. Players testing limits, owners demanding tougher clauses, and ultimately, the WNBA's growth trajectory hitting turbulence. In the end, DeWanna Bonner is indeed in Phoenix, but she arrived at a staggering cost. Over 6 figures lost, professional relationships fractured, and a legacy once defined by leadership, now overshadowed by controversy.